Okay, thank you. Just moving on from some of what Tim did we've done some work looking at the minerals in trees. So we're going to have a look at a potential use of trees, more specific use. Tim's presentation is quite generic, and we're going to really focus in on something we can specifically do and meet a specific problem across a lot of potentially sheep farms. So going to run through the background, what we need to do, whether using the supplementary feed actually worked, and then what sort of things I think we still need to answer to be able to use this effectively across many units. Okay, so the background, we did some work looking at tree mineral concentrations, so at the ORFC down at Lindsay, across at Bangor as well. So we've got 4 different sites there looking at a variety of species of trees, and you can see here we have, this is the cobalt concentration of these trees. We have a significantly high cobalt concentration in the willow. The thing to notice, this scale is a log scale. So that's absolutely stretched out. We are something like 10 times the requirement. The lines here, the solid lines, dotted lines, they are the requirements for sheep at 2 different lambs at 2 different growth rates. No, they're not. The top line's requirement for lambs, and the bottom line's the requirement for ewes. So it's when we come to another one there at different growth rates. So we're getting this thing that we've got this surplus of cobalt in the willow leaves. You have some of the other species, we've got, the sycamore's not very good on it, it's not meeting requirements. A lot of the others are around the requirement. But the willow especially struck out and went, ooh, that's quite interesting. Equally, the zinc here up in the corner was also high in willow. So we've got an additional potential zinc benefit from if we can utilise this willow for a nutritional background. Basic nutrients, so it's all very well if we can do this, but if it hasn't got the energy and protein, we're going to lose production anyhow. So we'll give the energy and protein on the leaves, and you'll see that, again, across all these leaves, energy and protein were predominantly within the requirements for all of the tree species actually here. So these are the requirements that go for a 20 kilo lamb grown at 250 and a 40 kilo lamb grown at 150 grams per day. So a fairly decent rate of production there. We can support that with the leaves. Okay, I'm not suggesting we're going to use leaves exclusively. So we've got the basic nutrients. So now we've got this high cobalt. What can we do with high cobalt? So we've given the background, we've got a problem. So have we got a problem that this would address? Well, yes, to be honest. So one of the things, you get the lambs growing away lovely, get about 8 weeks old, the lambs start not relying on the milk from the ewes so much, a lot more grazing, and then growth rates drop off. Now, this could be parasitism, this could be the fact they haven't got enough grass in front of them, it could be a cobalt deficiency. Now, the other thing that comes with this is some work we did looking at seasonality. You'll see in the spring the cobalt concentration of grass is much higher. It drops down in that summer period, that June, July, August into September, and then comes back up in the autumn. Now, this is related to generally the dryness of the soil and the redox potential in the soil on a technical level, but it means that as it gets drier, the cobalt availability in grass gets lower. So if you've got dry conditions, but you're still wanting to feed. So this really is why this is really a sheep feed, because that just hits every year with when we want to get our lambs growing, finished off grass. So it's this area is the issue. So can we use it as supplementary feed? Can we use the cobalt in the willow to help the grass? Because the grass wasn't meeting the requirement. If you go back to the grass there, way below the ewe requirement, definitely way below the lamb requirement there. So what we did, we had 26 kilo Aberfield cross-weaned lambs, split them into 6 groups, balanced them by weight and sex, put them into individual pens. Unfortunately, we had a slight issue that they weren't respecting our electric fences, so we had to alter this slightly later. Go to a netting fence and just put the leaf-fed ones separate from the other 2 groups. To get rid of any other things, they'd come off, they were previously worms, so we took out the worm issue. Admittedly, interestingly, it would be good to go back and look at the worm issue on the fact of any potential tannins in the willow, as well as the fact that if you're improving the cobalt status, you're improving the immune function. If you've got a cobalt compromised lamb, you're going to have an immune compromise. So there has been work showing that cobalt deficiency is associated with increased parasitism as well. And the farm we're working on is always low in selenium, so we made sure they had, all of the lambs had selenium iodine so that it didn't confound the results. 3 treatments, 2 groups of each initially, then they have to combine. So we have the willow fed group, 300 grams a day of fresh willow, so about 100 grams of dry matter, so it's about 10 to 15% of their intake. So they were still getting the rest of their nutrition from the grass. So we were supplementing, augmenting the grass. We gave a drench, a cobalt drench to some of them, so that was designed to give the daily requirement for the 14 days they were in, so the 2.8 milligrams of cobalt as a sulfate. And then we just had some with nothing. So just left alone. Took blood samples to determine the cobalt status at the start and at the end, and looked at vitamin B12 concentrations. So just to confirm, there's our trees against our grass. So our requirements are our tree leaves, again, hugely over the requirement, 4 to 7 times over the requirement there. The grass, not too bad, just under the requirement, but it is under the requirement. Okay, now feeding the willow leaf, I would not probably suggest this is the way to do it practically, because that's quite a lot of willow for not a lot of willow. If you see what I mean, we've got 4 buckets there, that's only a daily dose for 4 lambs. On the trial we're having, that took a little bit of getting. I will thank the giraffe later on. Did they eat it? Certainly tucking into those buckets there, so the buckets are in the pens, they ate it out the buckets. So yes, they were eating it. A little bit of a couple of days to get going, but once they got going, they were generally clearing up the willow most days. So we've got the fact they're eating it, so that works. Did it work as a supplement? Well, here's the vitamin B12s. There's the start, there's the finish. Okay, the cobalt in the grass meant they were more marginal and absolutely deficient, but that vitamin B12 here, hugely up. Okay, up to levels. So marginal, may have slight performance things, but here we're well above that. So that does also suggest that we possibly could get away with less, or giving, or somehow we've got some flexibility in how we administer or supplement the willow in what we're doing. So what we're going to do, real questions I've got left, what I think we need to do. Picking leaves was very labour intensive. This was a student project, it's great, student labour is cheap. Free. So how much do we need to use? Well, we were feeding 300 grams of fresh. We probably didn't need that, we could have probably got away with 100, a third, yeah, I caught that. So we can see how much could we cut this down. We were taking the individual leaves off, so pulling each individual leaf, could we have just chucked the branch in? Okay, we may have got additional tannins if they had struck the bark. How often do we need to offer the willow? On drench work, we know that if you weekly drench with cobalt, you get quite a good response. And if you go back, if you start doing fortnightly, 3 weekly, you're starting to lose a lot of your response. So it's regular. So, okay, are we on the fact that we've got to go, okay, go, have some this week, come out for a day, have some next week, or are we constantly in? So we might better get away with a bit of open paddock, let them in, let them out, and use it that way. How can we work systems in planting, utilising situ browsing? I'm going to argue against him here. Utilise as a shelter belt and a supplement at the same time. I think there are cases with management that you can do that. And can we work with energy biomass production? Because we want the leaf, maybe a bit of the bark, energy biomass, they want that solid wood in the middle. So can we work with that on things at the moment? Most of the energy biomass seem to wait till the autumn when the leaves are gone. So if we get it earlier, we can actually go 2 ways. Take the leaf and have the wood at the same time, and we're getting more benefit from it. That's the questions I've got. And then, of course, the potential hand-tormented properties, looking at the tannins and the enhanced cobalt status, whether that will have an effect on controlling ground tail mint and be able to fact that we can move on to more or less drugs and using these natural systems to help control that. So acknowledgements, Woodland Trust for helping and assisting funding some of this work, and evidence, Ben, the project student, he is about 6'3", he could get more leaf than I could. Chris Stokes at the Allerton project is out where we did the work, and as well, I've not got the farm staff there on the farm who provided us the sheep and the field, and various people at Bangor, Reading and ORFC who were involved in the initial work, and some additional funding from Ruminant Lab where we do a lot of the visual analysis, and the vet skill where I work for some additional funding for each student projects to do this work.